morning worship service of the West Visalia Church of Christ. We thank you for tuning in. I know we got people meeting in their homes all over the place today, but even though we're separated by distance a little bit and not here in the same location, we're all still gathered together in spirit and enjoying this time of mutual fellowship. What the wonderful blessing it is to be able to have, a way to gather even digitally during a time of separation. Kind of want to break down a little bit of what we're going to be doing this morning. It's obviously going to be a little bit different than what we maybe would normally do on a Sunday morning. First off, many have asked about what are we going to do about a song service. Thankfully, you don't have to have me up here leading you in a song because you do not want a Cliff Sabroe solo. But what we are going to do is if maybe when we're done with the video, if you click on the description for our sermon here this morning, there's a link to a YouTube channel where we have a playlist of about 6 songs that all of us together can maybe listen to on our own time, or maybe you brought a songbook with you at home and you and your family are going to sing praises to God together in that way. But we wanted to provide an opportunity for that. As for the Lord's Supper, I know most of you have already prepared and you have, the bread and the cup there at your house. What we're going to do is when we're done with our lesson time, one of our elders, Jim Robinson, after we have a quick delay to get everything ready, is going to lead in a couple prayers for the communion. And you can commune at home knowing that your brethren, even though we're separated a little bit, are all communing at the same time. I will also have some announcements that Jim will give us, and we'll close out our service this morning in that way. Also, many have asked about how can we continue to give at this time since we're not doing the traditional passing the collection plate. Way you can give right now, and we definitely want us to continue to give because the church is engaged in a lot of good works right now. And in fact, there's some new needs that are popping up with the current crisis that is going on. You can mail in your contribution to the church at 4525 West Caldwell Avenue anytime you want. You can drive by and drop it off in the mailbox if you want to do that. And of course, you can also do it online on our website at wvcoc.org/give. Let's get into it this morning. I want to ask a question. Do you, at this time, feel a little helpless? Have you ever felt helpless at some time? Had a moment in your life where you just feel like, I don't know what to do? I think a lot of us are feeling that way right now. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of upheaval. There's a lot of, changes going on in our lives. And a lot of us feel kind of helpless because of that. I remember a while back, a few months ago, my son Owen and I went dirt biking in the desert. We got there. We unloaded the truck. We pulled out the bikes. We were about to put gas in the bikes. I poured the gas into my dirt bike, getting ready to go riding with my son. And all of a sudden, it formed this crack right there. You might not be able to see it on the screen, but gas is pouring out of the bottom of the dirt bike. And Owen looks at me and goes, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix it? And I had to say, you know what? We can't right now. There's nothing that we could do to fix a cracked plastic gas tank in the middle of the desert. We didn't have a spare tank. We didn't have a way to fix it. At that moment, we felt pretty helpless. I think all of us have had moments in our life where we felt that way. Maybe you've had your house broken into before. And if you've ever had that happen, that's a feeling of just complete helplessness. You come home and you see that someone's been in your house, they've touched your stuff, they've taken something that wasn't theirs, and you were not there to stop it. And there's really nothing you can do now that the deed has been done. It's the same way with maybe identity theft. If you've ever had anybody hack into maybe your social media profile or taken your credit card information and used it, and you get that statement and there's charges that you didn't make, it's a helpless feeling because there's nothing really that you can do now to handle and to fix that situation. It has already happened. Now, there's things you can do to repair it and all of that, but at that moment, you feel at a loss. I'm sure many of you these last few weeks, when you log into maybe your financial accounts and look at the stock market and seeing the direction that it is going, you're thinking, what am I supposed to do? It's a feeling of helplessness. And of course, what's on everybody's mind right now with the coronavirus, COVID-19, that's going on. And we keep looking at news articles and turning on the TV and saying, okay, what's the answer? What are we supposed to do? And truthfully, we haven't been given a lot of answers of exactly how to fix it because it's a virus. It's kind of an enemy or something that's attacking us that we can't see. And it's scary. It makes us feel kind of helpless. But here's what happens. When we're in those helpless times in our life, those times where it feels like everything's against us, I think as humans, we have a tendency to just proclaim, I give up. I quit. There's nothing that I can do. I've lost all hope. I might as well just curl up into a little ball and wait for death. Well, hopefully that's not the way you're feeling. But you know what? Sometimes we do feel that way. But you're not alone and feeling that way. In fact, the Bible has a book in it that's written really to a person who's going through that same kind of mental anguish that maybe a lot of us are going through right now and feeling kind of helpless. And that's the book of Ecclesiastes. I hope you have a Bible with you there at home. Open it up, follow along. Maybe you can pull it up on your phone. Don't do it while watching this video on the phone. You will lose your connectivity. But on a separate device, open up your Bible to the book of Ecclesiastes, and we're going to look through it this morning. But this book of Ecclesiastes, if you haven't ever spent time in it before, it is written about 900 years before the time of Jesus. So it's an ancient book, but although it's an ancient book, the struggles that it's dealing with are so relevant to us today. And it is a philosophical book. It falls into a genre of literature in the Bible known as wisdom literature. The other books that are in that type of literature are like the book of Job that deals with why is there suffering, the Song of Solomon that talks about the beauty of married love, Proverbs, the true meaning of wisdom, Psalms, how about praising God and worshiping Him. And then Ecclesiastes is kind of a book about how to make sense of feelings of hopelessness. Because what it is it is a story of a man who's trying to figure out life. And aren't many of us trying to figure out life right now? Or the author of the book is asking questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Is there a reason to any of this? And I know many of us ask those questions too. It is about what to do when you don't know what to do. And I imagine most of you right now really kind of don't know what to do. That's where this book of Ecclesiastes comes in. It is written by, though, a man by the name of Solomon. If you're a student of the Bible, I'm sure you're familiar with him. Well, Solomon refers to himself in the first verse of this book in a Hebrew word that means preacher or teacher. And I think that's neat because Solomon's a king, but he doesn't call himself a king here. He's appealing, kind of as a teacher. He's saying, look, I've been through some stuff. I've seen some things. Let me now appeal to you as a teacher. His father was David. His mother was Bathsheba, and he possessed great wisdom. He possessed great wealth. He possessed great power, and he also abused that as well because he was being so powerful and being so wealthy. There was nothing on earth that he couldn't have. In a later lesson, we'll talk about what Solomon possessed, but ultimately, he used his power and influence and might and money to basically accumulate anything you could think of. He lived a life of complete excess, even with where it be food and possessions or whether it even be women. He tried to fill every kind of desire that a person could have in his life, and he kind of found out that it doesn't offer you anything. So what Solomon does in this book is he talks about life's ups and downs. Because Solomon started out well, but it seems that Solomon left God early on in his life. He forsake the wife that he had early on and, went out there with a whole bunch of different women. And at the end of his life, he looks back at his existence. He looks back at how he has lived, and he looks at all of it and he says, you know what? It is all vanity. It's a Hebrew word that could be defined as vanity, futility, or meaninglessness. And that's what Solomon does in this book. He looks at his life, he's looking for answers, and ultimately in chapter 1, verse 2, he says, vanity of vanity, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Another version, the International Standard Version, I like how they worded it, said it this way. They said, utterly pointless, says the teacher, absolutely pointless, everything is pointless. Kind of grim, I know, but have you ever felt like that? Maybe you didn't articulate it, but you were thinking, you're like, what's the point? What am I supposed to do? How am I to fix this situation? I feel completely and utterly helpless. Everything seems pointless. What do I do now? If you're feeling that way today, this lesson is for you because I want us to look at this wonderful book of Ecclesiastes and see how we can find hope even when feeling helpless. So let's look at the text together. Ecclesiastes chapter 1, and I'm going to read a lengthy passage here, but it's Ecclesiastes 1, verses 1 through 11. Let's read together. It says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem, vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanities. Same idea we looked at. He goes on, What advantage does a man have in all his work, which he does under the sun? Maybe I can find meaning in work. He goes, but a generation goes and a generation comes and the earth remains forever. It's just on, cyclical fashion. Life just seems to always go on. You fix one problem, another problem is thrown at you. This coronavirus isn't going to be the last, national scare that we ever have in this country or on this globe. It's just going to keep going on. We'll always have problems. That's life. He says, also the sun rises and the sun sets and hastening to its place and it rises there again. Days just keep coming, right? And there's never ending to them. There's another day. There's another day. I've heard the saying before, every week has a Monday, right? We always have that Monday. It just keeps coming. He says, blowing toward the south and turning toward the north, the wind continues swirling along on its circular course and the wind returns. In a poetic way, he's saying life just keeps on going. Just like the rivers, they keep on flowing. Verse 7. So verse 8, he says, all things are wearisome. They just make you tired. Does life ever wear you out? Solomon says life wears him out a little bit. He says, man is not able to tell it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing. The ear is not filled with hearing. That which has been is that which will be, and that which has been done is that which will be done. So there's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one might say, see this, it is new? Solomon is saying, look, is there ever an opportunity where here, oh, here's the answer. Here's what we were looking for. He says, already has existed for ages, which were before us. There is no remembrance of earlier things, and also of the latter things which will occur. There will be for them no remembrance among those who will come later still. Now, I know he's kind of ranting. I know he's kind of going on and on with kind of a negative message, but I want to ask a question. When you read a passage like that, and you see a man lamenting and looking at life in that way, I want to ask, do you ever feel like that? Do you ever just look at life and go, why? What now? What's going to happen next? What's going to make it better? The truth of the matter is, you're not alone in your feelings. In fact, it's okay to feel that way. But what Solomon lets us know is that everybody's felt that way. In fact, verse 9, he says, so there's nothing new under the sun. That feeling you have is the same feeling that others have had. That feeling of helplessness you have right now is the same feelings that others have had. So then we look at a book like this, we read all of this and we go, okay, Solomon, get to the point. What's the answer? What's the guidance that I need to hear? When I'm feeling helpless, what's that great, profound statement or theological insight that's going to fix every problem that's out there? Well, before we look at what Solomon says, let's look at what's going on right now in our own world. Coronavirus, right? Times have you checked back on CNN, Fox News, your favorite TV station, pulled up an article, a newspaper, trying to figure out, okay, now do they have an answer? Now are they going to tell us what we're going to do? What the plan is? We're always looking for a plan, right? What's the plan to fix it? What has the CDC, the health department, the doctors what have they figured out? I keep doing that. I keep looking and saying, okay, what's the great advice that they have for us? And I'll see a headline that pops up, CDC recommendations to stop the spread of the coronavirus. And I go, yes, there it is. It's finally there. And I open it up, and you know what the article's about? Washing your hands. It's about wash your hands for 20 seconds, cough into your arm, and stay away from sick people. And we look at that and we go, that's it? That's the advice? That's the way we're going to stop it? But the truth of the matter is, that's how you do stop the spread of illnesses. That is how you prevent, different illnesses from coming about. It's by different hygiene practices and so on. We're looking for something better, right? We look for a more detailed plan, but yet the real plan is just simple. It's direct, and it does make sense. And that's what Solomon offers us. See, we're feeling really helpless right now, and we look to the book of Ecclesiastes and we go, you know what the results of sin are? What are we supposed to do, Solomon? So after he goes on a 12-chapter journey looking for answers in life, in chapter 12 and verse 13, he basically gives us a hand-washing answer. He says, the conclusion, when all has been heard, is fear God and keep his commandments, because this applies to every person. That's it. That's the answer he gives us. Now, I'll tell you at first, I'm not always satisfied with that answer. I'm like, but no. There's got to be something more. It's not just fear God and keep his commandments. But Jesus did the same thing, right? What's the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus said, love God, love others, right? I mean, it's these simple but yet profound statements. So be satisfied with those answers because that's the answer we need to hear. The answer that Solomon gives us is fear God and keep his commandments. And when you do that, you'll find that life does make sense. You'll find that you are doing something that's proactive. And when you fear God and keep his commandments, you will not feel as helpless. So this week, these next weeks, these next months, whatever time this takes for our life to kind of be in this time of upheaval, follow that answer. The answer of fearing God and keeping his commandments. And you know what? When this crisis ends and the next one comes, do the same thing. And when the next thing that life throws at you comes, keep doing the same thing. Fear God and keep his commandments. And when you do that, when we do that as God's people, I guarantee it, you will not feel as helpless. Thank you for tuning in this morning and listening to this lesson.